Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name's Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and each week you'll find me here talking about my farming and creative life. Living on a farm, I've now noticed that we don't waste anything. We try to reuse, repurpose, and make the most of every single thing. And that is especially true when it comes to food. There's always something else that we can do with our food scraps or food that we haven't been able to eat for whatever reason. And a lot of Australian homes face this problem and don't often have a way of being able to use it all. In a recent study, it said that Australians discard up to 20% of the food that they purchase, and that this equates to 1 out of every 5 grocery bags, which in the end is just over $1,000 worth of food a year per household, and that overall it ends up being about $8 billion worth of food. And I know on a farm we can find ways to use it, but in the suburbs it was a lot harder. I did have a compost and I tried my best with food planning, but there always tended to be some wastage. And there are other people who live in apartments or don't have gardens, and for them it's an even harder thing. I know that there are communal and council based composting programs, so if you are interested, perhaps check with your local council. But what we do here on the farm is we have a compost, we have a worm farm, and then we have the goats and the chickens. So being able to split up the different foods between those different areas, we're able to literally put no food scraps into the bin whatsoever. So what we do is we have tubs in the kitchen, and as we are cooking or making a cup of coffee, we can put the scraps or the coffee grinds directly into the tubs that we're going to be taking out to the animals. And then once a week we do a fridge clean out, and anything that has been sitting there for a little while in terms of either leftovers or vegetables, we can then pop out to the goats as well. Those that know me know that I always have a pair of socks on the needles, and I've just finished a pair of socks that I'm going to be using as bed socks, and of course I've cast on another set of socks already. So I just wanted to show you a bit of my progression, I guess, from the very first pair of socks that I knit through to what I'm knitting on now, and what a huge difference it is. I don't even know what pattern it is that these first socks were. They're completely different sizes. My gauge was obviously quite bad. They've also now got holes. I guess it happens. And they didn't fit me to begin with. They were just loose, but I didn't know how to make them fit myself. This was before Ravelry and before I kind of had gotten into my real knitting groove, but I thought, you know what, I want to knit socks, so I tried. So I used to knit them on double pointed needles, and I think they were cuffed down with a heel flap and gusset, and yeah, it's a bit odd. So here is the sock. As you can see, it's extremely peeled. It's also a very loose gauge, and if I line the socks up against each other, you can see in both width and height they weren't the same. I still love them and I still wear them, and they're a good memory of my knitting progress to date, but I was proud of myself when I knit these, and now I've comfortably come up with my own way of knitting socks that combining bits and pieces from patterns and using them to create socks that I know are going to fit me every time. I guess my gauge has also gotten better over time as well. So now I use magic loop and I cast on 16 stitches for the toe, and I increase 2 stitches every other round until I get to 26 stitches on each needle. And then I just knit, and I don't know if you know this, and I learned it from Pretty Woman, but it is a fact, I've looked it up, that your foot is, from toe to heel, is the distance from your wrist to your elbow. So if you're knitting, you should plan to make the foot of your sock that as long as that part of your arm, perhaps a little bit shorter, and then you can start your heel. So that's what I do. And then I mark that on that first sock. Then I just knit the second sock to the same length. The socks that I just finished, these are nice big long ones. I can't even get them all in the shot because these are my new bed socks. These are made from Zilana Cozy, which is an alpaca, possum, merino blend. And it's really soft and squishy and fluffy, and I know it's going to be super warm. I love knitting socks, I really do. So here's, of course, I told you I added a new one already. So here's my new sock on the needle. There's the toe on this one. Oops. With the increase up the side. And as you can see, I've got the magic loop going on double pointed needles. So you can't lose your needle that way, which I find really, really good. You can just throw it in your bag and pull it back away from the edges, and you're not going to lose any of your stitches. And this is some wool that I got from Wangaratta Woolen Mills a few years ago. I got quite a bit of it. I thought it was nice to have a self-striping colour to just whip up some socks, and this is actually the first time that I've used this. And what I do with self-striping so that the colour is the same on both socks and so that the stripes look really nice and neat. You should be able to see right at the very top here there is a stripe of pink. So what I do is I start with right at that point where the grey and the pink begin, so that when I'm casting on, you see that one line of pink, but then the rest of the sock is going to be starting with the grey, and that way when I start my second sock I can do the exact same thing. And what I'll be able to do is just gauge by the number of stripes the length, and when I need to put in the heel and when I need to do the cuff. That's it for another week. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing so you don't miss an episode. Until next week on the farm, bye.